Hi there folks, I'm Bryce Holdaway and he's Ben Kingsley, and we are the co-hosts of Australia's #1 property podcast, The Property Couch, where each week we bring you the insider's guide to property investing. And today, Ben, we're going to talk about a very, very important 5-step process that you need to implement whether you're a first-time property investor or whether you're an experienced portfolio builder.
Totally, Bryce. It's all about the essential steps. So we're going to sort of sit here and famously unpack them as we do. We're talking about clarify, evaluate, plan, implement and manage.
Clarify, evaluate, plan, implement and manage. So Ben, what does clarify mean?
Well, basically clarify is about taking a look at your financial situation both today and tomorrow and seeing whether there's any opportunity or potential to invest.
You mean in an unregulated environment like the property investment industry, someone actually does look at someone's individual circumstances?
Well, you'd like to think that if you're getting professional advice, they would, rather than recommending something off the cuff.
So it's a very, very important point that Ben makes, that understanding your backstory, understanding the detail behind your household situation is essentially critical to understand. So the first step makes sense that we need to know what that is.
Yeah, we do. It's almost like going to the doctor and getting a health checkup, sort of checking the blood pressure, making sure we're in good health, because we're going on a journey. It's a wealth creation journey through property, so it's important that we do that. And so when we get to that clarify piece, we then start to look at evaluating how that situation is. So you can do that internally yourself, or you can actually go and speak to a professional to do it.
Yeah, and if you think about what a professional does, they'll have a mix of their experience, a mix of the theory and the training that they've undergone, and they merge the two to have a look at your unique circumstances, to have a better understanding about what the next step should be for you, and actually plan out a roadmap for the future.
Yeah, it's planning to become what you plan to become. I mean, ultimately, once we understand that potential, just like, professional tennis players who need a coach and basically a mentor to take them through, the same should apply to you in regards to whether you get that information from the Melbourne Property Show or you get that information from books or wherever, the internet. It's all good about building up that knowledge base and then starting to build a plan.
Very good. So clarify, evaluate, plan. We need to have, if you write it down, you're going to be more accountable to it, and you also know the obstacles and the milestones along the way that you can have some short-term wins, Ben, with a long-term perspective.
Yeah, I look at it sort of strategies and tactics. So when we're talking about strategy, playing the long game, and the tactics, how are we going to play in the game to make sure we can get that result and what's possible. So, we talk about making the invisible visible. When you're doing that planning work, that's exactly what you're doing. You're trying to see what your potential is now starting to look like on paper, because if we don't put it on paper, then usually most things don't get actioned.
Yeah, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So clarify, evaluate, plan. The fourth one is implement. And what's interesting about implementation is it's usually the spot where people start. I'm going to buy an investment property, they get on the real estate portals and they go and have a look at a property and they start going to open for inspections. But it's not really the best place to start. No. Because if you don't understand what your long-term goals are, if you haven't worked out if you're risk averse or you're a risk taker, you haven't worked out how long you've got until retirement, you haven't worked out what the target is that you're aiming for, chances are you're a bit premature going into the implementation phase.
Totally. If you don't know how good you are at what you're doing, or if you've got fantasized talents at what you're actually trying to do, this could be an absolute disaster.
True. So it's important that implementation is unbelievable. It's the doing, it's the action. It's actually the fun bit. But it's important to know that there's 3 critical steps before we get into the marketplace and actually start buying the asset.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I think from my point of view, knowledge is important, but if you don't act on that knowledge, what are you doing? So the implementation piece is around saying, well, I've now made the invisible visible and I've got some confidence and some trust in my judgment to now execute on that plan.
Good point, Ben. So the last step, the 5th one, is manage. That's essentially where we go, okay, we've put all this momentum into place and we've actioned it. We want to just make sure that everything is on track. Is it as we expected? Is the market performing as we should? Have our circumstances changed in any way that we should fine tune and tweak where necessary to make sure that the plan is a fluid, living, breathing process and approach to building wealth through property?
Yeah, and you don't have to be in it every 5 minutes. I mean, the beauty of property investing is you can actually get on with your life, but maybe every 6 months, just pop your head over the fence, make sure all the numbers are looking pretty good, and then get on with your life.
Get on with your life. And then after manage, what do? You go back and you clarify. your circumstances, then you evaluate your updated circumstances, then you put a new plan in place, then you go and implement and you manage. So it becomes
Beautiful.
a circular loop.
Circular reference.
For you to complete. So there you go, folks. If you are a first-time property investor or you are an experienced portfolio builder, irrespective of who you are, you need to go through each and every one of those steps in turn to continue to enjoy the success. But if you want to go and check out thepropertycouch.com.au, there's an episode exactly on this, Ben, the 5 essential steps where we go into more depth on each and every one of those steps, isn't it?
Yeah, so check it out on the website. Or if you're also an iTunes listener and you're familiar with podcasts, you can subscribe to us on iTunes, or you can also check us out on your Android device as well.
So there you go, folks, thepropertycouch.com.au.